Difficult. Women. Hey.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine.
That's how I feel too. It's so good.
Yeah.
Mercury is in retrograde.
Oh man, and do I feel it?
Feeling it. Yep. Feeling it. That's Katy Frame.
I'm Katy. And that's Marie Cecile Anderson.
Yep, I'm Marie. And this is the Difficult Women
Podcast. Is that the first time we've said it together?
I think so.
It's amazing. That was really, really perfectly timed.
It was beautiful. It was so perfect. It's like the planets
harmony.
aligned and we just, yeah.
Yeah, to just create disaster, just like it is in Mercury and retrograde. I have been having a terrible Mercury retrograde.
Oh, do tell.
Well, and Mercury retrograde tends to be about like things just like communication, like stilting. Sometimes it's exes coming back from the past, and I have had one of those.
Oh, no.
This ex from like when I was 22 keeps texting me all of a sudden out of nowhere. I haven't talked to him in years. And
you went to college with him, or?
No,
or
it was right after college. It was like my first love, really. Oh. He has a baby now, though. I'm like, what you want? Like, why are you up in my business right now? I don't know what's wrong. So that was happening. But the worst thing happened, Marie. The worst thing happened. I shot a music video for a friend. It's going to be kind of incredible. It's all on green screen. It's going to be amazing. My camera just fell over.
Oh my
God.
God.
One point. My tripod is like shit, and it like slipped down and the entire camera fell over. And I'm not like, I'm cutting this kid a deal because he's a good friend and stuff. And I think I'm going to have to like pay so much money recouping what I broke in that.
Oh no.
The camera's fine. The lens was okay. But like there was like a filter on the lens that cracked, and like it was so hard to take it off. And I was like, oh my God, did I just ruin like this whole setup? I was able to salvage a lot of it, but all I could think about as it was like going on, I was like, this is Mercury retrograde. This is like,
my gosh.
This isn't my fault. This is definitely a Mercury retrograde. No, it's my fault because I didn't get a new, if something, here's what I've learned. If something isn't working, like your tripod is not working, get a fucking new one. Don't like try to, be like cheap about it, or like, if it's protecting like hundreds of dollars of equipment, just get that, write a bad Yelp review for the one you have. And then get a new one.
Yeah.
Because, God, that was like the worst.
I think we can apply that to dating as well. If it's broken,
get a new
write
one.
a Yelp review.
Write a Yelp review, get a new one. We actually, oh my God, why aren't there Yelp reviews on online dating platforms?
I think
you should have like an Uber review.
No.
Yes.
They were doing that, like rating exes and stuff, I think on like Craigslist, or it was a whole big thing because men were rating women. And it was like,
we should do it like, it's not exes, it's like dates, right?
Okay.
So then everyone can know what's going on. I'm not like, I don't think I'd stay on that app for very long, but it would be fun to be on for like a hot second. And I'd be like, I wouldn't be mean, except I would like that guy that never asked me a question. I'd be like, they don't ask questions. I'm just like,
they don't.
3 stars.
I was so lonely the other night, and I was like, I'm going to do what Katy did. I'm going to just like check in, see what's going on online dating. So I like reinstated Hinge and then started getting all these messages. And this one guy, oh God, not my lobster, but the first thing he said was, hello, Marie. What is the most fascinating interest you have? And I texted Jeremy. I was like, what should I respond? Like, what the fuck kind of thing? Like, I like a man that can make me laugh immediately, and that did not. But no, I also was like,
kind of puts you on the spot in a way.
Yeah, but I wanted to write like butt stuff, but that's weird.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is that then you're making a joke, and then they're going to be like, oh yeah, she's just, that's all she cares about is butt stuff.
So then I wrote back my whole thing of like, well, I do have this weird fascination with sea urchins and uni, because Anthony Bourdain like loved uni, and I'm allergic to it, but I still like to eat it and roll the dice to see if I'll die or not, kind of thing. So I kind of wrote that. No laughter, nothing, no jokes. Like, I mean, it was just he didn't get it. He didn't get my jokes. And then he wrote, and then I was like, okay, well, what's your most fascinating interest? And he wrote monarchies.
It's not that.
So I'm off the apps again. I'm fine. I don't.
It's fine.
I don't have time for this.
No, my thing too is like I just kind of want to like leave the house. That's all. I don't need I don't need to like find my lobster right now necessarily. It'd be nice, but like I just want to like go on a date, and I can't even find anybody to go on a date with that I'm like that. It wouldn't make me want to like punch myself in the face if I was on the date.
Yeah. Anyway,
so it's fine. It's totally fine. I've been like just every time a friend of my mom's invited me out to dinner, and I was like, yes. I was like, that sounds great. I got all dressed up and was like, ooh, us ladies are out on the town. I mean, this like 60-year-old woman.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I do have a very exciting thing I'm going to do tomorrow night, and that is Miley Cyrus announced that she's doing a free show if you're vaccinated here in Nashville.
Oh, that's great. Actually, that's a great way to try to get people to get vaccinated.
Isn't that cool? But so it went, I guess she posted it maybe Thursday, tweeted about it Thursday or something. I saw it Friday, texted my older sister because I was actually at another show. I've been seeing a lot of music. But I saw it and I was like, Rachel, you have to get us tickets. And she's like, I don't want to do this. And I was like, you have to. Please. And so it was, you had to like upload your vax cards, like give your social security, like promise your firstborn, all that sort of stuff. But we are going to see Miley Cyrus. And it's a pride show too, so you're supposed to dress
fun,
all pride out,
so
and then they're giving away like rainbow masks, and it's being filmed for NBC's Peacock app thing.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and it's at the Ryman. Did I say that?
Do you think I could get my mom's friend to come with me or something like that?
Well, I'm making my sister go, and she's like, I told you I don't want to go. And I'm like, well, you have to, because I mean, it was like you have to have the ID to match the vax card to da 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 da. But she's excited now. She'll be
fun. It'll definitely be fun.
She was like, I haven't been to the Ryman since I graduated high school there. And I was like, well, that's on you.
Yeah, no, that'll be really fun.
Yeah,
that'll be really
I'm
fun.
pumped about that. So that'll be good. That's great.
Yeah. Did you know, a side note in terms of like getting people to get vaccinated, which I think is kind of brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So like, people are trying to like have these things. And there's restaurants now too in New York where it's like, you can't come in unless you're vaccinated. You have to show your card. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. But my boss is from Israel, and he was telling us, this is like early on, because they have a really high rate of vaccination. Like they've been able to vaccinate their citizens like really quickly. And one of the things that they've been doing is they have like happy hours for young people.
Oh.
And they're just like, I think it's like free drinks and just like, this is a party, but part of it is if you come, you get vaccinated. So they were giving out vaccines at the bar to get people vaccinated.
That's hot.
And it was genius, because it was like, that's one of the groups that's been hard to vaccinate are some of the younger people. And it helps, if we could just have it more available around, and then dangle a little carrot and be like, do this.
Right. Well, that's another reason why I got on Hinge the other night, because I was curious to see if you have to mark vaccinated, because somebody had posted that Hinge had changed that out.
I think you can have an option to do it, but I don't know if you have to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't find. Maybe I need to download like a newer version or something. But
yeah.
But I like that. I mean, because also
I'd like to know. Yeah,
so many conservatives around here that like.
Well, sure, and that's different too. I would say too, though, that I'd kind of want proof of vaccination. I want to like see.
Oh yeah,
cards.
Bring your card.
I don't really trust you. Yeah, don't just be like, yeah, I'm vaccinated. I'm like, I don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't trust anybody anymore.
I know you're trying to like stick your dick in it, so like I don't trust you. You gotta prove it to me.
Oh yeah.
Anyways. Speaking of sticking your dick in it, do you need a fleshlight or a dildo? I realize we've been really pushing the dildos, but we really need to push the fake vaginas.
That's right, or the buttholes, right?
Yeah,
don't they have the fake buttholes?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, so check this website out and order one today.
Free stuff is awesome, but free stuff to spice up your bedroom is even better.
Select almost any one item for 50% off, and then Adam and Eve loads on the free stuff.
Enter offer code HORIO at checkout and get 10 tantalizing free gifts.
A sexy item for him, a special gift for her, and a third item you'll both enjoy.
And 6 free spicy movies.
Ooh! Plus, free shipping.
That's HORIO, WHOREO, HORIO at adamandeve.com. Speaking of fake vaginas.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to discuss this with you today.
Oh, man.
Oh.
So many thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, so basically we're talking about designer vaginas today. That's
Designer vagina. That's good.
Designer vaginas. I actually saw a Gucci coochies.
Oh, I love it.
And the reason why this subject came up, because I'm reading this book, or I read it. It's so bad. I'm going to show you this, Katy, via Zoom. But it's When Life Gives You Lululemons. And this book, I saw it in the airport. I grabbed it as I was flying to Charleston to go to the beach because it looked like a good beach read. This book made me so angry. It's by Lauren Weisberger. She wrote The Devil Wears Prada, which I love that book. I love the movie. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll get this. This book made me so mad. Mainly because, read it. A lot of my friends were like, I love that book too. So what do I know? But the big thing about it is that it talks about women in Greenwich, Connecticut. And it's a fiction book. So who knows if this is true or not. I Googled it. I Googled the shit out of it and I couldn't find proof. But in this fiction novel that I read on the beach, full of rage, it talked about custom vaginas, making your vagina fit your husband's penis. And it was a type of surgery that these women in Greenwich, Connecticut would do, like reconstructive surgery for their vaginas for their husbands. So again, fiction book. So, and I cannot find proof that this actually exists. But in this book, it was talking about how after childbirth, these very, very wealthy women would go in and get reconstructive surgery to tighten their vaginas up. But also, meanwhile, before the surgery, the husband would go in, get himself very hard. They would then do a plaster of the penis, of the size and the girth and blah, 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 and then match the female's vagina to her husband's penis. This is in this silly book. It's a summer read. Read it on the beach. Get mad.
just get furious.
But I read this. I was just because they were just talking about, in the scene of the book, I'm sure they will make a movie out of this so we can all just get angry. But in the book, they're all just at a happy hour at someone's mansion, and they're just talking about, these vagina reconstructive surgeries, and the protagonist is who here has gotten this? And all the ladies raise their hands, and so they're custom fitting their vaginas to fit their husband's penises. So I call Katy and I'm like, I'm reading this book. Is this true? Is this really a thing that women are doing?
I don't know. I will say I just want to, on a side note, in terms of putting it in a book or whatever, I don't think it's cute or funny.
No,
I really don't think it's cute or funny. I think unless you're talking about The Handmaid's Tale or something,
right.
If you put it in a book like that, I think that it's that kind of especially for I think also the audience for Life is Lululemon or whatever the name of that book is. The audience is women, right? It's not men. So she's even if she thinks it's funny or just a jokey idea, she's implanting this notion that that's, and I'm sure in the book she's sort of scoffing at it, oh, isn't that crazy or whatever. Right. Just knowing the tone of that, that of Devil Wears Prada. But even so, it's just sort of that's not even cute. It's that is it's genital mutilation for a person who, I know in the best of times, hopefully you stay together forever, but that's not a guarantee. And that's not you shouldn't be changing things about yourself to that extreme for anybody. That's just insanity. Right. Unless there's a medical reason. And one thing about just diving right into it with this vagioplasty or whatever, because there's labioplasty, which is external, more of an external changes, where your labia minora or majora get either manipulated somehow, either trimmed down or injected with fat or something to make it look quote unquote perfect. But then the vagioplasties, I think is how they pronounce it, they change the inside parts of the vagina tube or whatever. That's not medical.
We're not doctors.
And a lot of people, and a lot of people that want that surgery are women that have had children or right. They're aging. So it's there's a part of me that's okay, I kind of get where someone might want to do some of that, maybe for themselves, hopefully, and not for their partner. But there's also not been a lot of research on if this really works,
right?
What the side effects can really be potentially in the long run, or even immediately following the procedure. Like if you go on I went on some websites of people that do these vaginoplasties and labiaplasties, and they're all like, it's so safe and everything's free. I'm like, yeah, of course you're gonna say that. But then if you dive in deeper, a lot of like doctors are like, we don't know. We don't even know if this actually, like, you might go through the whole surgery and not much might change at all, except that maybe you get an infection,
Right.
So it's not even like that. They just don't, there's not enough information about this. And the truth is, it's like, mostly these things are not for medical purposes. Mostly it's for cosmetic reasons. And when you think about like, what's the cosmetic reason, or why would this person need this? It's because something outside of them is telling them that what they have right now is not okay. And it's like, because there was another thing I was reading where sometimes if people have like vaginal prolapse or any kind of like prolapse, some doctors, like the vagioplasty doctors, say this is a perfect way to solve that problem. A lot of OBGYNs say, we're not even sure it helps that. We're not even sure that it really is good for that. The only thing I could think of that was sort of interesting, and I understood this to some degree that it could be a problem, is that like some people have their labia minora comes out quite a lot. And especially, I was reading though that like sometimes young girls are getting these things because it's like getting in the way of like sports and things. So I mean, it's going to be on person to person basis. So I'm not saying that this procedure is fully problematic. It just depends on what your needs are. Because if you have something where it's like obstructing your ability to like live your life, then of course, like, so people get breast reduction sometimes because they cannot exercise,
Right.
So like, I fully understand that. It's when we get to like, when I looked at the website, they had before and after pictures. And like 90% of these vaginas, these vulvas, were like, the befores, they looked perfectly normal.
Right.
They were beautiful. I mean, they looked just like beautiful. Some of them where I was like, oh my God, that one's a cute one. I was like, I love it. And then after, the afters were all like, they all look like Barbies. They all look like, what you see in porn. They all looked the same. And it made me like, and again, if it really is for a medical reason, I totally get it. But from what I'm finding, it's the vast majority of people that are getting these surgeries, it's not for medical purposes, it's for cosmetic purposes. And it makes me really sad.
Well, so Vice did a documentary about this, and I didn't watch the whole thing because I was at the gym trying to work out while watching this documentary, and all of a sudden they're like, it's like literally like just close-ups on vaginas, but then also like the surgery.
I was like, someone's like looking over your shoulder.
There was like this super hot guy looking at me, and I'm just like watching these videos of
vaginas.
It's fine. It's
that
good.
might work to your advantage.
I mean, maybe. Who knows? But the sad part about this documentary, and again, like I was at the gym, I didn't watch the whole thing. So, but at the very beginning, it's a 19-year-old beautiful woman who's a model in Beverly Hills, and her reasoning for it is that she said she really wanted it because she feels so beautiful everywhere else but her vagina. And she's a model, and she was talking about how like in swimsuits she doesn't want her lips like poking out like Dumbo and that type of thing. But it just it just made me so sad because it's like that's a vagina. That's what is happening.
That's what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
And we've been conditioned to believe it's supposed to look like a Barbie's bottom. And that's not what that's not what it's supposed to look like. In the same way that like men have all sorts of different sizes and shapes of penises and balls and all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, it's a huge variety, and like that, we're all aware of that, and we're like, we allow that to, I mean, people make jokes about smaller penises and stuff, but other than that, like, there's an awareness that they come in different shapes and sizes and colors and whatever. And for some reason, women's vaginas are all supposed to be identical.
Right. Well, in Men's Health, there was a Men's Health magazine article that I was reading about vaginas, and it was fascinating because it was like, to dear men, this is what you need to know about vaginas. And one of the things was some vaginas look different. I'm like, some vaginas? How about all vaginas look different? All humans look different. Like, let's just normalize that they all are just beautiful and different. And then also I sent you that other article from in Essence magazine, and it was talking, basically it was a woman writing in to be like, my boyfriend wants me to get this surgery because he says that like I'm loose and like, you know, I should tighten up, or if I got this, like I'd be marriage material. He said he'd marry me in a second.
He was holding this silly carrot over her.
Yeah. And I love that
she kept
the writer,
saying that he, I just wanted to clarify too. She kept saying that he'd say it kind of in a jokey way, which also makes me feel like he's not going to marry you. And he also kept referring to the surgery as like a fun, sexy little surgery. This is no, there's no
genital
fun,
mutilation.
Sexy little surgery.
Right. That, I mean, if no judgment again, but if you have your man telling you need to have this type of surgery,
get out,
run,
get a new man,
run.
Well, and I loved her response.
Yeah,
like, in the
get a new man.
Magazine. And also she said the thing that was the first thing that popped into my mind is like, maybe your penis is too small.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's like, why? So, are you about to go out there and like get penis like enlargement surgery? Because I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying that, like, why isn't that the first thing that comes to your mind, gentleman, individual person that was bothering his girlfriend? You know, why are you putting it on her all the, immediately?
And there are those things that you can put on a penis. I Googled it because I had a small dick boyfriend once. And I Googled, like, you could put, like, it's like a hot dog bun.
Just get out a hot dog bun and shove it in there. That sounds good. I mean, there's a lot, but the thing is this. So all these things kind of go hand in hand though, right? Because I think I've said this on the pod before, and I think about this from time to time, that like if I had a teeny tiny penis, if I was a man and I had a teeny tiny little micro dick, I would be so fucking good in bed.
Yes.
Because the thing about sex, and we are so bad about this in this like, culture that we live in, that like sex isn't just about penis to vagina penetration, right? There's so many ways to pleasure your partner and to pleasure yourself and to play around and have fun and be open with your sexuality in like so many fun ways. And if like there is a limitation with, either you're madly in love, but her vagina is enormous and your penis is teeny tiny, it doesn't have to be a deal breaker.
Right.
It just doesn't have to be a deal breaker.
And
we joke about it, and we're very bad about joking about dick size and stuff. And so sorry. I'm so sorry. But also it's funny. But like really, like I certainly, the worst thing that could happen if you have a really small penis or a giant vagina is that you're so insecure that you can't be sexually free, because what it requires is more ability to be sexually open and free and engaged and curious. But our culture is like, well, you're not normal. We're making fun of you. We're telling you you're wrong. We're telling you your body is wrong, even though that's totally perfectly fine and natural and exactly the way it should be. It's because you're not able to do this exact precise kind of sex exactly the way that we say that you're supposed to do it. You know, which also kind of even ties into things like missionary position or whatever, right? Like there's some positions in different body fits are better than others. So this idea that like in some states or whatever, some places, there's ever been rules where it's like only missionary position is legal, everything else is illegal and obscene. Right. Remember those like old,
oh yeah,
you can't do it in any other, but it's like, don't tell me how to do it.
Right. Well, that was another thing. I mean, when a man is like saying things about your loose vagina and that you need to have the surgery to tighten up, whatever, it's change positions.
Yeah.
That was what this one article, it was like, well, you're probably doing it not wrong, but just try different things.
Well, the fits are different. I mean, I've had definitely different.
And heaven forbid somebody has that kind of surgery for their boyfriend and then they break up and then you have like a Coke can
and
boyfriend.
The truth is this,
and then you're too small.
Right. Well, and the truth is this, if you have a guy that's like begging you to get this surgery or making you feel bad, you're gonna break up with that person. You're not gonna end up with them. They're just not gonna. Either you're gonna get sick of that shit and you're gonna leave, or they're gonna break up with you. That's it. Because they're like, if they care that little about your health and your well-being, that they're suggesting casually that you should get this sexy little surgery that could number one, there is scarring that can happen during those surgeries that will not only be problematic for many reasons, but one is that it can desensitize the area down there. Infections can occur easily. By the way, also, I'm sure this guy did not think about what the recovery time on this procedure is, which is at least 6 weeks of no sex. So it's not like she's going to get the surgery and then he's going to start banging her right away. Like, I don't know what this guy, I mean, I know what he's thinking. It's that like, we live in this culture of quick fixes, right? So it's like, oh, I don't like this, change it. I don't, you know what I mean? Overnight, we're going to get a new one, whatever. You're disposable. You're disposable. Let's replace this part. As opposed to just being like, this is fine. It's still working. It's amazing. You know, not even fine. It's like perfect.
Well, in my stupid book, the reason why these women were getting this done was to keep their husbands.
I mean, this is what I cannot.
I know. Yeah. Just like all that language around like, well, if you don't satisfy your man, he's going to go get satisfied elsewhere.
What is he doing to satisfy
then burn
you?
it all down
what is he doing to satisfy you? Right? And I'm not trying to say that it should all be, it's not about, you know, the woman is the only one that matters, because it's also not the man is the only one that matters. It's like sex is like a thing that happens, that you do it to each other, for each other, and for yourselves. Right. Like there's this lady, we actually was thinking about maybe if she'd be interested in coming on our podcast, but I've been like talking to her and seeing her like during the pandemic, and she's like a relationship kind of coach and stuff, and she's just really brilliant, and y'all should maybe take her. Like she's like workshops and stuff, and it's good for people that are in relationships and not in relationships.
What's her name?
Her name is Lori Woolridge.
Can people find her?
Lori Woolridge, soul coach. Oh God, I'm gonna fuck it up. Soul coaching, but Lori Woolridge, and we'll talk about this, but maybe we could have her on because I think that she could be good for us and for everybody. But she talks about sex being this thing. She's like, you have to remember, like, it's not about something you do for someone else. It's not about something where you just take for yourself. It is like a soul merging experience. And that doesn't mean you have to be in love in the westernized way. It's just that you're two bodies and little soul beings that are coming together to have like an experience with each other. And we are so conditioned out of that thought. Like it is so goal oriented. We've talked about this on the pod before too, but it's like sex in the Western world is so much about like, did the man come? You know, did his penis go inside of your vagina and then did he come? That's like all that matters in like our versions of sex and what we see in a lot of porn and stuff like that. When like sex is so much more than that. And it's so much more fun than that. I mean, like, that doesn't even sound that fun for the man, where it's just like, I'm going to stick this in and I'm going to come as quick as possible. And the woman's like, okay, like that just doesn't sound like fun to me at all. You know, it doesn't have to go on for hours either. It can, you know, but there's definitely some balance there of like finding the joy in connecting with another person.
Right.
Like, why is that not talked about in like when we talk about sex?
And obviously this is like heterosexual referencing, but like it's just so, it makes me crazy because then a lot of times, guess what? The female doesn't come because it's just also about the man. Right.
And also, I don't think that means that we should frame it in that like, oh, the goal of sex should be for the woman to come, or the goal of sex should be for both of them to
look into each other's eyes and come at the same time, which is such fucking bullshit that I was taught like through, you know, rom-coms all growing up or something. Or like, oh, it's when you cry, you know, together and embrace. Like,
but it also puts, well, think of how much pressure that puts on both parties.
Yeah.
So like it should also be okay if the man does not come.
Yes.
And it should also be okay if the woman doesn't come necessarily either. So I don't think that like what happens, I think sometimes too, where like the men that are trying to be woke and available and allies and whatever, then they get obsessed with like making the woman come. And that puts on this whole pressure too, where you're like, thank you for trying, right? Like, let's try to do this. But also there's nothing wrong with you if you cannot make me come today necessarily, as long as we're communicating, we're having a good time, and because you can get like stuff out of that, whatever, and there's no shame in a man not being able to come on a particular day necessarily, as long as it's not like a medical issue or whatever. And that like, again, if the communication is good and you're still having fun, and a woman shouldn't feel less than a woman because she can't get her man to come. So like we got to take some of this like baggage off of this stuff, because this is what leads to people getting labiaplasties.
And it's all about communication. And people, I mean, I feel like more and more.
And loving yourself.
Right. And loving yourself.
And
also
not putting up with shit from other people.
And knowing your body, your own body too. Like you know, I highly encourage people to take a mirror, look at your vagina, celebrate your vagina of how different it looks. Because there's not a single vagina like yours on this planet, you know, or your penis.
Snowflake.
Get in there. Get in. Look at your snowflake.
Yeah.
Look at your. Take a look at your balls.
Take a look at your balls.
Why don't you scrub down there a little bit?
Explore your balls.
Yeah.
That was one thing too that came up too during the in one of the articles you sent where, and maybe there's this another episode we need to dive. Actually, I would be interested in diving into this too. Is also like the amount of circumcision that happens in our country too, because that is also a form of genital mutilation.
Yes.
And I know there are religious reasons and things, and we could talk about that for sure and explore that more. And we're so normalized to it here that it almost feels like, well, yeah, of course I'm circumcised. But when you think about it, like, why, you know, like, maybe this is not. And it's funny because when I was younger, I thought like, would I get my son circumcised? And it was like, yeah, of course. Or I kind of was like, I'd leave it up to my husband because I don't really know what that would be like. But my instinct was like, yeah, probably we would because we're in America and that's what everybody does. And in retrospect now, I think I'd be like, please no, like let's absolutely not do it.
Right.
And the other thing is I know that uncircumcised men sometimes get weirdly ostracized in the United States because so many people are circumcised. But how nuts is that? It's like
we should actually devote. I would love to devote a full episode to this because I was just with some friends and we were talking about this and I might have been a little drunk, but I was like, "Do you miss your dick?" to my friend, and he was like, "Actually, yeah. I mean, I didn't have the choice. It was taken from me as a child, and I have to say." We used to do brisses at my old restaurant that I worked at for years.
So crazy.
Which is insane. Like, so here I am, like a freaking cater waiter on a Sunday morning, and they're just like, they do it in a banquet hall.
Right.
With bagels and lox. Like,
and
this poor sweet baby is screaming its head off. And there was blood. It was just, I mean, and we did several brisses over the years. And
I catered a brisser too.
Right. And I mean, weird. I get it. It's religious. It's you know, tradition, all that sort of stuff. So I don't want to.
But you know, a lot of like genital mutilation for females in other countries, they consider that religious. And like, that's unacceptable. So like.
But how unfortunate that so many men don't get to decide for themselves if they want.
Right. I mean, but that's
foreskin
the whole
or not.
point, right? Yeah. That's like the whole point. And I think that like, so. I know like I've been with a few uncircumcised people and I've had like conversations with women, American women, who are just like, oh my God, what do you even do? How is that? What is that like? And there is like a small learning curve because we're so used to just having circumcised penises in our lives. But it's not a big deal. It's like really not a big deal. It's like you figure it out and then that's it. Then it's just normal.
I think it's hot. It's beautiful.
No, I mean, and I think that like I think it's a thing we need to talk about more. But anyway, back to the ladies. I read this whole other thing where they can either go in. It's not the tightening of it. It's not like but it's actually like taking a laser. Oh, I was hearing about this too. Or like electric stimulation.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And so it rebuilds the cells and then
the collagen
and that makes it tighter itself. And so this woman was saying that, you know, I get facials and like, you know, micro abrasion type stuff on my face. Might as well have like a little facelift or whatever on my pussy. And so it was in Red Book magazine. And this woman does talk about how she did it and she got her vagina tightened by a laser and I'm so glad I did it. And I was like, okay, well, why, you know? And she actually said it made her wetter because it
interesting.
Yeah. So, and she said her husband loved it as well. So, you know, to each their own.
To each their own for sure. I think something like that maybe that's a little less invasive, although I don't know what the procedure is, so I shouldn't say it's less invasive.
Well, she said it's like a fancy dildo that like a bedazzled
sent out electrodes or something. I mean, something like that I would be a little more, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. Because I'm not a mother and I have not given birth, I don't know what happens. I mean, we know and we learned in our last episode that so much shit goes down in your vagina after you have a baby. So there's probably a million reasons why someone might want something done after giving birth and whatever. I think some may say, well, there are like more like exercisey type things you can work on first. And I think that that's probably a good first step. But if you feel like it's still not whatever, I think that then you just have to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Because like, again, like if you're doing it because your husband wants you to do it, I don't think that's the right reason. Because again, there's other ways to do sex, right? There's other ways to have pleasure in sex. It doesn't have to be penis and vagina, right? So maybe like if your husband's complaining, then maybe he's real fucking lazy,
right?
Because he's not like making it interesting for, you know, the both of you. You guys aren't making it interesting. So there's that. If it's because you're like, I really need this for myself, okay, well then that's like something worth. But then I would say, please be incredibly wary and number one, there has not been a lot of studies done. Even that electrode thing I was reading, they were like, we don't really know if this works really well. And we also do not know what the potential side effects could be. And if it ends up being this thing that you get, number one, because someone else told you to, or number two, because you feel insecure because the world around us is telling you it's supposed to be a certain way. And then you lose sensation of your vagina. So, you know, like you lose like, you know, any kind of sensation or any pleasure there, or it starts to become painful to have sex all of a sudden because you've been messing around with stuff down there. Really be sure, like, is this worth it? Because for me, like, the worst thing that could happen is that then it just like doesn't feel good for me anymore.
Right. Oh my God.
Why would I don't give a fuck what it feels like for my partner if it hurts me.
Right.
Because then we're really not going to have a lot of sex, right? Then we're really not going to be like doing stuff.
Right.
And that would just be like, it's just one of, to me, like orgasming is just one of the like purest joys we are given as humans. Food, sex, and sleeping, you know, like those are the, and laughing, you know what I mean? These are just the things that like, they don't cost any money. We have been gifted by God or the universe or whoever with this like amazing, incredible gift. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I get so angry when I hear some man saying, you should do this, you should get this, you should change this about yourself. It's like, this is my gift. Oh, this is my like precious, like lovely gift. I don't want to fuck around with it.
Right.
I think in some ways I'd be much more likely to get like a facelift than I would a vagina lift, because if I get a facelift and I'm real ugly for the rest of my life, it's like, oh, well, if it's my vagina and then I can't orgasm anymore, I just can't imagine, you know, like, and I know that our bodies go through different periods and maybe that will change for me naturally, but like to do something to myself to potentially put my little puss in harm's way is like crazy to me.
Right.
Like, I value my sexuality so much. And myself, that, you know, and like even in the times where I've hated myself the most, like I still wouldn't want to lose my orgasms. You know what I mean? Like that's...
Oh, I think
because also like sex stuff too, it's not something it's not just about, even if you're married, it shouldn't be about what you do with your husband. It's also what you do with yourself. Like you should, you know, masturbating should be something too that like is part of your sex life. And that isn't, so who cares how big your vagina is when you're masturbating?
Your puss is a gift. My puss is a gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Do you know who Lindy Klim is?
No,
I don't either. I guess she's just
wondering.
Just wondering. You know, you made such a beautiful point. I thought no. Well, I just saw on Reddit, I guess she's a celebrity or something. If anybody knows who the fuck this woman is, but there's this whole big thing on Reddit where she spends $75 a week on designer vagina masks that she claims reduces vulva wrinkles. Which,
I mean,
like,
are you?
I mean, what is happening? But that reminds me more of like Gwyneth Paltrow, like monetizing,
right, steaming her,
steaming it, and then she was also selling these like, I don't even know, jade eggs. Maybe I'm making that up. But there was something, crystals that you put in your hoo-ha. I don't really know. But to me, it just seems like people are, I mean, capitalism, like people will try to find a way to make a profit off of anything. And that's probably why so many of these surgeries are happening in the first place.
Of course. And off of people's insecurities. Right. You make money off of people's insecurities.
Which is just disgusting. But
also, please be careful. Like, on the one hand, if there's a mask and it's just sort of cute and fun and like it doesn't really affect your pH or something, like I guess that's like fine. But like, really be careful about the stuff you're putting down there, because like it can really fuck you up. Because
not only is it a gift, it's magic. Like what
it is.
Our vagina. Like I was reading this whole. Maybe I'll just read this real quick for any males out there that have made it through this whole episode. Bravo, first off. But there's 11 things you didn't know your vagina could do. Let's see if either of us learn anything from this. So it can change color. I think blood and the flow of blood can change the color of your genitals. Super cool. It's like a chameleon.
So even if you do like some surgery because you're like, oh, my vagina gets too red during sex, it still will probably do that.
Right.
So like, why even bother?
Right. So don't dye your vagina a different color just because it's getting a different shade. Anyway. It cleans itself. That's what I think. Right. Like, that's because boys always like, well, are you going to douche? And it's like, do not ever douche. Your vagina is magic. It cleans itself. Like, it's like my pussy, my cat Olive. I've never given her a bath. She cleans herself.
Self-cleaning. She's a self-cleaning pussy.
Yes. just like ours. It can get bigger, as we all know. I mean, I'm sure if you've had children out there, you understand that you can birth a human through your vagina, which is just amazing. But it does, like, one of my good friends right now is pregnant, and she's explaining like she's actually having some pelvic pain because her pelvic is moving with inside of her, and her vagina is getting bigger to make room for her baby, obviously.
Right. By the way, just to tie this in to like what we talked about last week, is that like if men are so worried about like women's vagina and they're like, oh, we'll just get a surgery to make it smaller after childbirth, one of the things we can also talk more about instead of all that shit is to like make sure we're protecting women's vaginas during childbirth and during the pregnancy process, because we talked about last week how nobody talks about that. Right. And nobody talks about what an effect it does have on your body, and how there are things you can do to prevent more damage happening down there than you necessarily need to have happen in any given birth. But that is not the medicine, and doctors are not concerned about what happens to a woman's sexual life after she gives that, as long as the baby's alive and the woman's alive. That's kind of what they're.
And they send you on your way.
So there's ways you can work on protecting your vagina for these things, like with listen to our episode from last week. Okay, yeah, continue.
Well, like we talked about in our episode last week, is that you have to prepare like an athlete would prepare for a marathon. You can prepare your vagina for childbirth, but also, I mean, you can prepare your vagina anytime you want. Like I'm doing Kegel exercises right now, and in this article, your vagina can get stronger, like an athlete. It can get stronger. You can work on your pelvic floor. You can do exercises, and actually, like I clicked on a link, and Amazon does sell like Kegel things that you can. Yeah. I don't know if I would do that, but to each their own.
One thing too is just be sure that one thing they talked about, the experts on our friend's podcast who we interviewed yesterday. Well, it's complicated, but anyway, we learned recently too, though, that a lot of women are doing Kegels wrong. Right. And also that sometimes those, I think also sometimes be careful with those like vagina dumbbells and stuff, because you can do more damage than not if you're not doing them right in the first place. So you can go to an expert in like a pelvic floor specialist, and then she can tell you if you're doing it right or not. I think you can just go once, and then it can really help like give you more information. And they were saying that that's a really good thing to just go do, especially if you're about to have a baby, but even if you're not, if you're just like a woman that's having other issues, and you can work on some of those problems if you're having, or not even problems, but like preventative stuff.
Another one is it can talk to you. Your vagina does.
Mine's always like, hey girl, well, good morning. How are you, sunshine? I'm like, hi baby.
Mine's like, where's the dick? All right. No, just kidding. No, but listening to your vagina, like as far as discharge or periods, or it will, but you have to be kind of in tune to it and to pay
and you
attention.
Also have to not be fucking around with it too much with douches, because that'll confuse. You won't be able to tell what's going on if you're not.
And we've talked about it before, but I use the Flow app, and I just really monitor my period, but then also if I have sex or whatever, like I just put it in there, so I just kind of know what's happening. And then when something out of the blue happens, then I know, hey, maybe I should check in with my doctor.
That's a good idea.
This is interesting. Vaginas could save lives. There's ERC, which is endometrial regenerative cells or stem cells to treat congestive heart failure in patients. So we know that stem cells are extracted from menstrual blood and grown to generate different types of cells in the body.
Well, and that's the thing too, that like people get so triggered by the word stem cells now because of like abortions and stuff, but that can, just science people, like these things can come from other, can come from menstrual blood, like you're saying, and not just from babies. But also, I'm also very pro stem cells in aborted fetuses too, because
yes,
come on, guys,
I agree. I did not know this. I always joked about this, but this is true. It's rare, but a vagina can trap a penis.
Oh yeah, I need to look into this more.
It can like the pelvic muscles of the vagina clamp down on the penis so much that it makes it difficult or impossible to remove the penis, and so you have to go to the doctor.
Unfortunate. That makes me think. I was very fascinated with the movie Teeth when it came out.
Oh yes.
I love that movie.
I know. Your vagina can have 4 different kinds of orgasms: clitoral, vaginal, blended, or multiple. So
that's neat.
It's cool. And but dick can't do that. And you can live with 2 of them. It's very rare. But some people have been born with, I guess what it's called. It comes with 2 uteruses and 2 cervixes.
I read this thing about this girl that had that, and she kind of had to just. This is what's crazy though, is it's like she didn't even know for a long time. I think it was around when she started having sex that she figured out there's something going on.
Oh wow!
Because it's not normalized to look, right? Like girls aren't really supposed to, like, we're not taught to like go check it out down there and see what's going on. So it took her like forever to like even know that there was anything. And then she went to like, finally went to, I mean, she was probably like a teen or something, and then went to a gynecological appointment by like 18 or something. And then they were like, oh well, this is what's going on. And she was like, oh.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, vaginas are magic. They're a gift sent from heaven.
Absolutely. And like if you're thinking about having a labiaplasty or vaginoplasty, just really ask yourself why, and see if there maybe are some other, I don't think I'm super pro it. I mean, I understand there might be caveats to that, so that's okay. But I don't know. Just really be sure you're doing it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm. And don't read When Life Gives You Lululemons by
and don't
Laura
read that book.
Weisberger, unless you want to be
anything she
full
says.
Of rage with
that's
just where we're headed as a society.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's fiction, oh God.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And if you are someone that has already had some sort of a surgery to change your genitals, either male or female, for like aesthetic reasons and not for medical reasons, we'd be interested in hearing from you. Or even if you did get it for medical reasons, we'd be interested in hearing from you. You can write us at difficultwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. Thank you all so much for going on this wild ride with us. Send us any and all thoughts to that email. We'd love to hear from y'all.
Yeah. All right. Bye, babies.
Bye.